Brakatia Howell, Brakatia Shai, Brakatia Howell, Brakatia Shai, Brakatia Howell, Brakatia Howell, Bashim Shai, Bahashim Chakodash. That belongs to the apostles and the elders of Great Millstone, which rule well. Salutations to the hopeful elect out there, you Akim to Zadakim that do this thing in the utmost truth and sincerity. On the pre-Shaman, this week's topic is going to be entitled, it's going to be a response to Anton. I can't say his last name. He's a advisor to Vladimir Putin, and he warns that the United States plans to get rid of his debt by using a stablecoin global reset. Okay, and I want to speak on this because, you know, this is something I mentioned during the 2020 lockdown in terms of how they want to gradually ease away from using the United States dollar. You know, they're trying to avoid things like they're trying to avoid terms like CBDC because, you know, conspiracy theorists and conspiracy people are doing a good job of putting a lot of this, and first and foremost the prophets, of putting a lot of the things this man wants done on his agenda on the internet. You know, so Fed Chairman Powell came out saying, look, the Feds don't want to use CBDC. Trump said he doesn't want to use CBDC. However, they're pushing for stablecoin. Now the difference is CBDC is issued by central banks. Central banks will be monitoring every single transaction. Stablecoins would be tokenized currencies. All right, that could be privately issued. Now, you know, through the spirit, I was saying, you know, I more or less see them using that route, and then this is 5 years ago, because it's a very gradual route. You know what I'm saying? It's a very gradual route. The method that the so-called white man has been using throughout the decades is cooking a toad in a pot. You know, which is you slowly just put the heat on it, and you know, till it's cooked. So basically, and this is how come Trump is saying, look, we got 9 trillion, 16 trillion invested coming in the United States from these different big tech companies, and that doesn't mean all at once. That means the lifetime of the contracts. And basically what they want to do is, let's say Meta is a very huge company, multi-trillion-dollar company. It could issue out Meta coins, right? Meta coins backed by the United States government, and then the United States will then use those Meta coins throughout the world. And then guess what? You hold those Meta coins, now you're holding United States debt in the form of U.S. treasuries. And this is how come we see gold is increasing. You know, the price of gold is going up because these nations, all right, they're heaping up a lot of gold. You know, this is the book of Habakkuk chapter 2 verse 6. It says, shall not these take up a parable against him, and a taunting proverb against him, saying, woe to him that increaseth woe to him that increases that which is not his, right? The so-called white man is known for stealing shit, all right? And the head of that right now is the United States, all right? They go in, they steal people's resources, they do regime change operations, take out your leader to put in theirs, you know, a bunch of wicked shit that they're doing. It says, increase that which is not his, how long? And to him that laden himself with thick clay, right? Laden himself with thick clay, heavy debt, okay? This is a debt-based society. So the trick is, what they do is, and the United States has the ability to do this, is anytime, this is how come we don't have hyperinflation in the United States. You might be like, how come they printing so much money, but they haven't had hyperinflation? And when I say print money, I mean, issue debt, right? How come in the form of U.S. treasuries? How come we haven't received hyperinflation? Because the United States is the world reserve currency, okay? And what that does is give them the ability is when things are like hyperinflated, all they have to do is push out things to the other countries, all right? Like, think about it like this, like the debt is blowing air into a balloon. And then if you want to let out some air, a little bit of air before the balloon pops, that's how the United States pushes its money throughout the world. So the rest of the world could take on United States debt. No other countries can do that, really. You know what I'm saying? So that's how come we haven't really hit hyperinflation per se, you know? But these nations are prepping for it, right? They know that the United States is in heavy debt. They see the stable coin moves, all right? And this dude Anton, whatever his last name is, all right, was warning about it, all right? That's how the United States plans to use stable coins, all right, to get rid of their debt. So that's gonna be the next big thing up, man. All right, tokens issued out by private companies, all right, your Meta token, your Nvidia token, backed by the United States government. This is the book of Obadiah 1:7. All the men of thy confederacy have brought thee even to the border. The men that were at peace with thee have deceived thee. Right, so there's a lot of countries that's made contracts and agreements with the United States. They behind the scenes, you know, they plotting. Behind the scenes, they are plotting, man. All right, you got this guy Trump at the UN. He was, you know, just like he did many years ago. He pretty much got on them. You know, got on them for working with the United States and Russia at the same time. It was like he's basically saying, how can we sanction Russia? You know, trying to put an end to the war in Ukraine, yet y'all still buying oil from Russia. You know, and a lot of these nations, you know, there's gonna come a point they're gonna say, look, to hell with this shit. We're gonna go with Russia, man. All right, that's a prophecies. You know, a lot of these nations that the United States believe are in line with them, they're gonna turn their back on them and Israel. You know, the state of Israel. It says, the men that were at peace with thee have deceived thee and prevailed against thee. They that eat thy bread have laid a wound under thee. There is none understanding. They have laid a wound under thee. These nations are plotting, man. You know, these nations are plotting. They do not trust the United States dollar. They want, you know, they're coming up with different ways to circumvent having to do trade in US dollars, because not so much that they don't hold dollars, but they don't want to deal with sanctions, right? That's how come we had the whole SWIFT thing. BRICS. You know, the BRICS payment system is an alternative to SWIFT and CHIPS. You know, that was something put up by Russia, using these other nations for, you know, bilateral trades. But the thing is, the dollar still reigns supreme. That's the problem. You know, why would I want to use BRICS and trade in your dollars? You know, let's say, for example, Korea and China, or India and China. Why would I want to do deals in your dollars when I have to get hit with that high currency exchange fee just to have to change again, you know, back to US dollars? But if I could just trade in US dollars, once I have a dollar in my hand, boom, I got the world reserve currency. The dollar is the world currency, man. You know, 1/3 of the world transactions is done in, is it 1/3 or 2/3? But I know this. I'm sorry, 1/3 is in China. 1/3 is in China. 1/3 of the dollars exchange in China is United States dollars, and then 51% of the world reserve currency is United States dollars. So it's like everybody needs dollars, man. You know, and these nations see the flaw in that. Like, damn, they got so much fucking leverage over us with that. So that's how come, you know, they plotting and things like that to look to alternatives. You know, James 5:1, it says, "Go to now, ye rich men, weep and howl for your miseries that shall come upon you. Your riches are corrupted, and your garments are moth-eaten." Right, you know, again, going back to this funny money, you know, the funny money, the United States dollar. It says, "Your gold and silver is cankered, and the rust of them shall be a witness against you, and shall eat your flesh as it were fire. Ye have heaped treasures together for the last days." Right, and you know, we know that gold and silver doesn't oxidize, so it's talking about they have to come up with a new alternative, all right, to this United States dollar, because they, you know, you're able to manipulate it and do all types of things with it, all right, and it holds these nations hostages. You know, at any point they could issue sanctions on you. They could do a bunch of things, you know, and that's how come everybody's going back to the Lord's money, which is gold. You see? Revelation chapter 6 verse 4, "And there went out another horse that was red, Esau, and power was given to him that sat thereon." How? Job 9:24, by the Most High. It says to take peace from the earth. Right, this man has done nothing but wars and hell on the planet Earth. It says to take peace from the earth, says to take peace. Sorry, bear with me. It says to take peace from the earth, and that they should kill one another. And there was given unto him a great sword, the nuclear missiles. All right, because that's what's going to be the end all be all. All right, I'm talking about after, you know, this whole stable coin and the chip. You know, that missile, nuclear missiles that the Most High has given them the knowledge to make. Isaiah 54:16 is going to be the end all be all. It says, and there open and when he had opened the third seal, I heard the third beast say, come and see, and behold, and lo, a black horse. Right, so that black horse is going into inflation. All right, which is what we're talking about right now. We're talking about inflation and debt. It says a black horse, and he that sat on him had a pair of balance in his hand. And I heard a voice in the midst of the four beasts say, a measure of wheat for a penny. Right, a measure of wheat for a penny. Now when you look up that word penny, it's a denarius, or a day's wage. You know, so it says a measure of wheat for a day's wage. You know, that's inflation, and that's what's happening. This, when you see asset inflation, you see in gold, stocks and real estate, and these things go up. It's not so much that they're increasing in value; it's just that they're printing more money. All right. So, for example, right, a company is going up. When you look at the chart, it's going up over a period of time because the price of the goods that they're selling is going up over time. Because when they raise inflation, that detergent you bought in the grocery store is not $5, it's $5.50 now, right? And people are buying it, so it looks like the company is making more money, but really it's just the value of the currency is being devalued. Inflation is bringing these assets up artificially. You know, it's not like they're per se increasing in value. You know, a company could go from $500 million market cap to a 2-point-something billion dollar market cap over 10 years, but when adjusted for inflation, it wasn't really like a 5x or 3x growth, you know, in value. It was in price due to inflation, but you know, that's, again, it says a measure of wheat for a penny and 3 measures of barley for a penny, and see thou heardest not the oil and the wine, which is the truth. But this is again going into inflation. The last scripture I had was Revelations, the 13th chapter, going into the mark of the beast, which is the RFID microchip, because this is where all this would lead to. Okay, this is where all this would lead to. So we're there, man. We're there. We're now in a time where we're talking about stable coins being used as currencies, cryptos being used as currency. We're that much closer to the Lord returning. With that, I'm going to give all praises to Yahweh, B'Hashem Yahweh Shah, B'Hashem Chakadash, the belongs to the apostles and the elders of Great Millstone True Well. Salutations to the whole elect out there. Shalom.